Do not want to disgruntle Russell Westbrook coming into training camp. And I think what Darvin Ham and his coaching staff are doing is doing a hell of a job by making sure they keep a great relationship with Russell Westbrook just in case.
Okay, so this whole situation, it calls for a little bit of chop it or drop it. I want to start right with the Lakers' new head coach, Darvin Ham. He was asked about Westbrook during last night's game. Take a listen to what he said.
Russ, in my opinion, man, he's in great shape. He's durable. And in this system, this 4-out, 1-in system, he's going to have a chance to screen and roll and make plays in the half roll. He's going to have a chance to run on the break, slash, get layups. He's going to have a chance to sprint out to the corner, flatten the defense, get corner threes, as well as the things that he already does well in terms of getting the ball and pushing the pace and pushing the tempo. So I'm excited as hell to have Russell Westbrook on our team.
All right, Brian, what do you think?
I want to chop it, but I think I have to drop it because he's talking about Russell Westbrook being a screener. Russell played 78 games last year, and he set 57 screens, 57 total screens. Now, granted, he's going to obviously be in a different role, I suppose, but my gosh, look at the rank. Now, he actually was a better corner three-point shooter than I thought. He shot 45% in the corner, and Darvin Ham, I'm sure, knows that. And I'm sure he's taking advantage of that. But he also is just a 29% catch-and-shoot player. Asking Russell Westbrook to play that is so different from the way he's played his whole career. I can't see it.
Well, the rule in Chop It or Drop It is if one person drops it, then we drop it. But since I'm the host, I'm just going to chop just one little smidge of it. And it's this. It's good. No, it's good. It's that I do appreciate what Darvin Ham is doing here, and that is when we look at the relationship, and I know our Lakers reporter Dave McMenamin mentioned this on the show the other day, when you look at the relationship between Frank Vogel and Russell Westbrook, it was flawed sort of from the beginning, and Darvin Ham is not making that same mistake, we can call it that, if you will, in this situation. LeBron James and Russell Westbrook, they were both in Thomas and Mack Center on Friday, so was I. But they were sitting on opposite sides of the gym. They couldn't have been farther away from each other. Westbrook, he sat near the Lakers bench. LeBron was on the opposite baseline. And the former MVPs, I didn't see them talking at all. They left independently at different points in the game. Russell Westbrook left around halftime. LeBron James left toward the end of the game. Wendy, are you reading anything into this non-interaction?
Well, I think it's dangerous to totally read into something when you just see a slice of their lives. But one thing I think we can say is that last year, when Russell Westbrook was traded to the Lakers, LeBron and Russ were, spending a lot of time together, totally palling around Los Angeles, working out together. They were totally invested in building that relationship, and I think it's safe to say that that's turned a little bit frosty. And, the reality is this. The reality is that LeBron does want the Lakers roster improved. The way to do that is to trade Russell Westbrook. I don't think he's demanding Russell Westbrook to get traded. He just wants them to improve. I think the entire NBA knows that, including Russ. And I also think Russ, it's not even about LeBron. Russ is really trying to build his relationship with the new coaching staff. He's spent a lot of time with Darvin Ham to this point. And he was sitting on the bench, sort of acting like a player coach during that half he was there. And I think he was trying to send a message of being a team player. And he would have done that regardless of where LeBron was for that game.
Perk?
Well, let's just stop all the foolishness, okay? Here it is, all right? We all know that the Lakers want to get rid of Russell Westbrook. They want to trade him. Okay, let's get that out in the open. And we know that Russell Westbrook could feel the energy. And Russell Westbrook knows that. And guess what? The feelings are mutual because Russell Westbrook don't want to be there either. So at the end of the day, look, what we saw at the Summer League game, those guys sitting across from one another and not even going greet one another in the public eye, to me, that speaks volumes to me, okay? Because guess what? With all the noise that's going on around the league and Kyrie Irving and things to that nature, if LeBron or Russ would have took the initiative to go over and greet one another and they would have been caught on camera or in the public eye having a conversation, it would have silenced a lot of the noise. Not all of it, but some of it. See, here's the thing now, and I said this again last week. The Lakers got to be very, very careful again because if they don't get Kyrie Irving, you do not want to disgruntle Russell Westbrook coming into training camp. And I think what Darvin Ham and his coaching staff are doing is doing a hell of a job by making sure they keep a great relationship with Russell Westbrook just
Russell Westbrook is a big story coming out of last night's game. So for the second straight game, Russ was benched by coach Frank Vogel, and he was subbed out in the third quarter, and he did not return. So here's how Russ reacted to the benching after the loss. Take a listen.
I put a lot of work in. I got a lot of respect in this game. I don't have to hit a benchmark. I shouldn't have to. I earned the right, to be in closing lineups. Numbers would tell you. I don't have to explain that. But like I said, once again, that ain't my decision. That's his decision that he and the staff think is best for the game. And unfortunately, just got to go with it.
There's a moment right before the end of the game where you went over to LeBron and AD on the bench. Can you kind of take me through what was going
give
on
them
there?
Encouragement, just keep their head up, keep playing. Tough night. And I told him I wish I could help them. Unfortunately, I wasn't in the game to be able to help them. And that's why I came here to be able to help them out. So unfortunately, haven't been able to do that, for them, but that's not my call.
All right, so I'd like to welcome our insider, Brian Windhorst, to the conversation. So, Brian, can the Lakers make it work with Westbrook after what we just heard?
The next few days are going to be really important with Russ because taking that position where he's not willing to go along with potentially sitting at the end of close games and maybe at some point even coming off the bench, not even being in the starting lineup, that's going to be a very important thing for the Lakers over the next few days. Because when you look at the numbers, Russ is referring to his career numbers. His career numbers are awesome. He's a Hall of Famer. But this season's numbers do not support playing him at the end of close games. And even if the eye test doesn't support it, and that's going to be a huge thing for the Lakers to manage in these next few days.
Well, and Perk, take a look at these numbers so we can kind of see exactly what Brian is talking about here.
You know what? The numbers is fine, but I'm extremely bothered by Russ and those comments after the game.
In what sense?
In a bad way. For the simple fact that accountability is huge, and Russell Westbrook is shying away from that word for some reason. And he can't sit up here and tell, hey, I was brought here to help, but it's out of my hands. No, it's been in your hands. You just haven't delivered. And you know what's weird to me is that they have a guy over there by the name of Phil Handy, Coach Phil Handy, arguably the best workout guy, developmental guy in the NBA. And for some reason, Russell Westbrook just won't give Phil Handy a chance. And every night I'm watching his game struggle. And so the problem that I have is that you can't come on here and blame Coach Frank Vogel, because Coach Frank Vogel then stuck with you long enough. He's tolerated. He's had your back in multiple interviews saying Russ will be fine. We got to get our chemistry. Sooner or later, he got to figure it out. He has to put the best players on the floor at the time that he think could win the game. And right now, Russell Westbrook is not in that conversation. What Russell Westbrook needs to do is get the trust back of not only his coaches, but his players. Because we just saw in the video, LeBron and AD wasn't trying to hear that. They're like, nah, dog, you got to pick your game up. They was not trying to hear that. They didn't tell him that, but they wasn't trying to hear that. Look at it. They're not trying to hear that.
No, I agree. And when I saw that, I saw a player that was not necessarily involved based on the reality. In the NBA, in basketball overall, you got to be able to get a bucket. Like, you cannot be a liability on offense anymore. And if you are, you've got to create one. And I think he struggled creating them. He struggled scoring. And on a night where normally you see AD go 8 for 10 and LeBron James 11 for 19, and they both combined for about 50 points, you would think that this team would be competitive. But instead, Russ is 3 for 11, 0 for 1 from 3. You're not creating a case for yourself. And I do think that, at points, Russ has been able to be the dog wherever he goes, whether that's OKC, Houston, the Wizards, and now LA. This is a lot of pressure and expectation, not only playing for Los Angeles, but coming back to your hometown where all your family's there, and then trying to acclimate in a season where LeBron was out in the beginning, AD out in the middle, and now you're all back together trying to save the season. I think, what are they, 26 and 29 right now? Trying to make sure they don't end up in a situation where they were in the play-in, and that really hurt them and put them in positioning. But you've got to play and perform at a high level in order to make this push. And I think he hasn't, per se, as Wendy, you've said, given the requisite evidence for a coach to say, I see why you need to be out there. And lastly, I'll say this. For Russ, everyone deals with flaws, quote unquote, within your game. Perk, you made a great point about, all right, go work out with the trainer, Phil Handy. I mean, everyone knows him in the basketball world. You soak up that type of knowledge. What can you do if you're not knocking down your shot? Everyone knows in basketball, if they're not guarding you, dribble handoff. The next person coming off can be a shooter. Being intentional with those movements to create shots for other people. Screening, that's number one, too. Focusing on assisting the ball. Like, if you know that's your primary choice, do that. Those are things that you as a veteran have to move the pride to the side and say, if I'm here to win, and people won't care if you have 0 or 5 points and you win and you have 15 assists. We've seen that. Sorry, I'm just...
No, you're real, but Bill $41 million or 40, what would Russ make?
40?
40-something million dollars.
44.
Right now, be a $44 million Alex Caruso. Be that. Be a guy that has 0 points, 7 steals, and impacting the game that way if you're not being able to score. But here's the thing that I want to point out when I look at Russ. Right now, Russ is being challenged because now he finally has to play basketball, where he's been on teams where they're just hooping. Think about it. The Houston Rockets was just open court and just running. It wasn't real high IQ or having to go with, how can I make this work? Or no, it was James Harden, Russell Westbrook. Y'all get up and down and do y'all thing. Same thing with the Wizards. Same thing when we was with Oklahoma City. But now it comes a point in time where, guess what, Russ? You actually got to play basketball.
Right.
You actually got to be a basketball player with a basketball IQ in the moment. And Russ is struggling, and Russ need to hold his